Welcome back to Inner World Podcast, where I, Liam Johnson, join you in exploring the most invisible yet powerful structures that govern your emotions, behaviors, and your entire life. This is a space dedicated to those who want to understand their inner world, master their emotions, and gradually build a life of mindfulness and resilience from within. Today's topic is one of the deepest I've ever shared: the roadmap to unlocking human nature, a journey through desire and imagination, a deep dive into the oscillating states of our inner world, and ultimately, a return to self-mastery. This is a multi-part series in which we will go through essential concepts such as desire, imagination, anger, ignorance, arrogance, doubt, cruelty, and bias. We'll learn to distinguish between negative and positive mental inclinations, and especially recognize how the modern world is exploiting your very own mind through the industry of imagined desires. In the previous part, we analyzed the core role of desire and imagination, two factors that determine how you react to every situation in life. In the upcoming part, you will be guided on how to accurately identify the fluctuating states within yourself, as well as how to shift them from negative to positive, from destructive to constructive. I know you've often heard people say, "You have to learn to let go." But has anyone ever shown you what to let go of, how to let go, and what lies beyond the letting go? We cannot release what we cannot first see ourselves holding. That is why understanding the map of human nature is so crucial, not just to live in peace, but to live with direction. Throughout this content, you will be guided from understanding yourself to understanding how the world influences you, and finally, to learning how to step out of that unconscious cycle. And the most important part? I will share it at the end of this video series, a key perspective that will help you step outside the matrix of the modern world, not by rejection, but by clarity and conscious choice. Thank you for always staying with me. When you understand what desire and imagination truly are, you will no longer be surprised when your life rises and falls, when your inner world feels restless, or when your relationships keep failing to connect. Because you have begun to see the fundamental principle that drives human behavior, not the outside world, but the inner current. You see, every behavior of yours, from words to glances, from actions to decisions, stems from your nature. And your nature is driven and shaped by two forces: desire and imagination. And if you are asking yourself, so what exactly is desire? What is imagination? Then picture it like this. Desire is the urge to obtain something. Imagination is the image or feeling you create about that thing. Simply put, you desire a house, and you imagine that the house will bring you peace. You desire fame, and you imagine that applause will make you happier. You desire love, and you imagine it will fill the emptiness in your heart. Desire is the engine. Imagination is the map. But if you cannot control that map, you will steer your life straight into a cliff. And here's the crucial point. It is desire and imagination toward wealth, beauty, fame, pleasure, and attention that determine the full range of fluctuation in your human nature. When you desire and imagine wealth, money, talent, possessions, only for yourself, it's easy to fall into greed. But if your desire and imagination toward wealth are about wanting others to live better or have more opportunities, then it shifts into generosity. See the difference. It is still desire, but the direction changes and the outcome is entirely different. I once heard someone say, "I want to build a home for the poor, I want them to have shelter from rain and sun. And they did it. People called him a good person. But in truth, he also had desire, a positive one. He desired to see others with a roof over their heads. He desired to see them happy. And because he had no self-serving motive, people called it generosity. I call it positive direction, desire, and imagination. On the other hand, there are people who only want a nice house for themselves, clothes for themselves, delicious food for themselves, with no thought for others. That is negative direction designed on imagination. Same behavior, but completely different inner state. And it is the inner state that defines who you are, not the outer form. I want you to remember this line. Whether you desire for yourself or for others, it is still desire. But the direction is what shapes the kind of person you become. Inside every human, all fluctuations begin with what you desire and what you imagine it will bring. It is desire and imagination that determine whether you become angry or content, foolish or wise, insecure or arrogant. And the beautiful truth is this: if you master desire and imagination, you can regulate your entire inner world. But hold on. If you're thinking that you don't really desire anything, that you live simply without craving, let me invite you to pause for a moment. Because anyone still alive still has desire. The key is what kind and in which direction. Negative or positive. You desire to be loved. That's good. But if you force others to love you in the way you want, you will suffer. You imagine that love must be like in the movies, and that very image makes you resent the one next to you. You desire time with family, but you imagine a perfect dinner, obedient children, an understanding spouse. And when it doesn't go that way, you feel disappointed. See, it's not that you don't have it. It's that your imagination is off. That's why I say it's not the world that hurts you, but your imagination of that world. And when you understand how desire and imagination operate within you, you not only find peace, but you become the kind of person others want to be around. Because mindfulness is contagious. Remember this: the range of human nature's fluctuation lies in the outer layer of the electromagnetic field of yin and yang. And desire and imagination, they are the first doorway for you to begin actively adjusting it. So if you truly want to change, there's no need to go far. Start with this question: what am I desiring, and what do I imagine it will give me? In the previous part, we clarified a very important truth. Desire and imagination are the root elements that shape human nature. But today I want to invite you one level deeper, more precise, more profound, to understand a concept that I believe, once grasped, will forever change how you view emotional shifts in yourself and others. That is, the range of fluentship in your human nature. Have you ever felt like you were a different person yesterday? Yesterday you were open, generous. Today you find yourself closed off, irritable, unwilling to let anyone near. Yesterday life felt full of meaning. Today it feels like nothing is worth living for. That doesn't mean you are weak. It means you are fluctuating, and every human being is like that. Human nature, like electricity, operates within a field that swings between the poles of negative and positive. And here's the important part. The outer layer, made up of desire, anger, ignorance, pride, doubt, cruelty, and bias, is where the strongest fluctuations occur. Picture this. Inside you lies a pure core that is your true nature. but its outer layer is like an atmosphere, constantly influenced by the electromagnetic currents of yin and yang. Each time desire arises and imagination forms, then immediately anger or contentment, orientor or clarity in organic will emerge. And depending on the initial direction of the thought, you will either drift toward the negative side or move upward to the positive. In those moments, it's not that you are bad. It's just that you are standing on the negative side of yourself. When you are angry, when you are snapping at others, when you are irritable, you are not a terrible person. You are simply in the negative end of your spectrum. And if you understand this, you won't judge yourself too harshly, and you won't be so quick to judge others. This is the most precious awareness a person can attain, to realize that we always fluctuate, and to learn how to navigate that fluctuation. Let me give you an example. You come home from work, hungry. You desire and imagine a hot meal, but when you get home, no one has cooked yet. Your desire stirs. Your imagined expectation goes unmet. Anger arises. You start to complain, snap, say hurtful things. But if in that same moment you desire and imagine, I will buy something nice for the whole family, and you carry a generous mindset, when you come home and see no meal prepared, you don't feel angry. You don't blame, because your imagination wasn't broken. Same situation, completely different response. This proves that what hurts us is not reality, but our imagination of that reality. And that's why I invite you to learn how to observe your own range of fluctuation. Because if not, you will think you are too emotionally unstable, and you will never believe you can truly master yourself. Once you begin observing, you will realize that every emotion, whether positive or negative, is just an expression of an internal fluctuation. You get angry not because you are bad, but because anger is at the negative pole. You feel useless not because you are incapable, but because pride is sitting at inferiority. You doubt others not because you are cold, but because doubt is tilted toward distrust. And the wonderful thing is, this range is not fixed. It can be adjusted. You can learn to desire for others, to imagine benefit for the community, to pause when you feel ignorance rising, to recognize when anger appears, to accept instead of resisting. I often compare this to learning a musical instrument. At first, you don't even know your hands are hitting the wrong keys, out of rhythm. But the more you practice, the more sensitive you become to the slightest mistake. One day, you won't even need to look at the keys, and still you'll play it right. Mastering your inner world is the same. In the beginning, you just need to understand your own range of fluctuation. Later, you will know how to adjust it, without force, without pretending. Every transformation starts with one simple observation. Which direction am I leaning toward? And that is why I've dedicated an entire video series on Inner World Podcast to this topic. Because if you only understand inner work through concepts, but cannot recognize how it moves in your daily life, then you haven't truly lived it. After clearly seeing the range of human nature's fluctuation, where states like desire, anger, ignorance, pride, doubt, cruelty, and bias operate within an ever-shifting electromagnetic field, the next thing we need to recognize is this: every internal shift begins with one single intention. Yes, just one intention. But you know, nothing is more powerful than an intention pointed in the right direction. And nothing is more dangerous than an intention headed the wrong way. So the important question is, Where is your intention headed, negative or positive? At Inner World Podcast, I won't talk about good or bad intentions. I don't use moral language to judge a person. Instead, I want you to reflect and clearly see the intention you are forming. Does it carry the qualities of negative or positive? A negative intention is when you want something only for yourself. A positive intention is when you want something for others, and naturally, it may return to you in due course. There's also another kind, a negative intention with a positive direction, meaning you start with yourself in mind, but then naturally it extends to benefit others too. So you see, life is not always black and white. But if you are honest with yourself, you will quickly see who are you thinking of first. When you initiate something, what is the very first thing that comes to your mind? Yourself or others? You don't need to say it out loud. You just need to know, and just knowing is enough to begin change. Because all transformation starts with being honest with yourself. Let me tell you a story. There was someone who loved cooking. Every time they went to the market, they chose ingredients carefully. After cooking, they invited the whole family to eat. Everyone complimented the food. This person said, "I just want everyone to be happy. I don't need anything." But deep down in their mind, they were hoping to be acknowledged. That is, a negative intention with a positive direction. Not bad, not wrong. But if that person doesn't see it clearly, one day when no one compliments them, they will feel hurt. Why? Because they thought they had no expectations. But deep inside, they still desired something. Doing good is not hard, but maintaining a positive inner state is what requires practice. You know, some people give money to others, but deep down they expect gratitude, a thank you call or recognition. And when that doesn't happen, they feel upset, dissatisfied. That is a negative intention disguised by a positive action. And there are others who do something without anyone knowing, without needing acknowledgement, and their inner world remains light and peaceful. That is a truly positive intention. We don't need to force our actions to look noble. We only need to train our inner intentions to be rightly directed. Because when the intention is right, the action will naturally follow. And you may ask, how can I train that? Let me share something that has helped me for many years. Every time I begin to do something, even something small, I ask myself, who am I doing this for first? And I observe the answer. If you do that long enough, you will realize that intentions can be trained. You'll notice that sometimes you desire something, but you no longer see yourself as bad for it. You simply observe, I am desiring, then you redirect it. Don't aim it at yourself. Think of someone who might receive it first. And something magical will happen. When you desire for others, when you imagine good things for others, your inner energy instantly shifts to positive, and you become the kind of person others want to be around. That is a natural attraction, not spoken, not forced. You probably already know someone like that around you. Try reflecting on it. Compare it to what we've just discussed. And I want you to remember this. You can't force suffering to end, but you can help yourself find peace. A positive intention is the first step to helping yourself live a peaceful life. I know this may sound abstract, but if you're willing to observe your intentions a few times each day, then you are already practicing something precious. Inner mastery. I don't have the ambition to change you. I only hope to contribute a little to your journey of awareness. Because I believe this, just one right intention, and you are already different. And if today you find yourself about to initiate something, pause for a moment and ask, where is this intention going? After you have observed the intention you start each day, you begin to realize an important thing. Many of the things you call noble are actually misunderstood. And nothing illustrates this more clearly than the concept of sacrifice. Yes, you heard correctly, a word so beautiful, so noble, so elevated, as people often say. But if you do not truly understand its essence, you easily fall into a paradox, feeling like a victim while also wanting others to acknowledge your victimhood. And that is when sacrifice becomes a burden. Many people say, I sacrificed my whole life for my family, but no one understands me. That sounds sincere, but what lies beneath? It is a negative intention. If understood correctly, sacrifice is not about enduring loss. It is a conscious choice to prioritize the benefit of others, with the belief that the future will bring something better for all. Let us analyze the word hype is from hope. Sing means growth and development. Sacrifice is the action you take today with the belief that something will be born, will grow, will become better, even if you do not enjoy it immediately. And if you understand it this way, sacrifice becomes a positive intention. You no longer feel deprived. You see yourself choosing to do something of value, something that leads to growth, something that nurtures the future for others and also for yourself later. Do you see the difference? The person who feels deprived always expects rewards. The person who truly sacrifices understands that the growth of others is a gift to their own soul. Many say, I gave up my youth to take care of my family. But if you feel lost, then that is not sacrifice. It is a silent internal exchange you have not named. We are here to understand ourselves deeply, to live more lightly, not to hear what is easy to hear. Therefore, I invite you to pause for a moment and reflect on all the things you have called sacrifice. Did you do it with joy or with resentment? Do you feel at peace afterward, or still waiting for something in return? Do you believe the thing you did will contribute to something better for someone, even if you cannot see the result immediately? If the answer is yes, congratulations. You are initiating a positive intention. And if you still feel weighed down by the word deprived, remember, no one truly sacrifices and still feels loss. They see themselves investing in a meaningful future. That is why, in a society where people constantly talk about sacrifice, you need to be careful when sacrifice is misunderstood. It does not nourish anyone. It only creates more expectations and resentment. Change that begin with yourself. Stop each time you are about to say, I sacrificed, and ask, am I wanting others to be grateful, or am I rejoicing because I did the right thing? And you know what? When the intention behind sacrifice is properly aligned, it brings remarkable inner strength. It gives you a balanced state, a sense of lightness, serenity, and freedom. I once heard an elder say, I do not need my children to repay me. I just need to see them live with integrity for me to be content. That is a person who truly sacrifices. No need for anyone to know. No need for anyone to repay. As long as what they did brings results for others, they are fulfilled. And I believe for anyone listening to this podcast today, If you have ever felt exhausted by the word sacrifice, then it is time to redefine it. Because if not, the word sacrifice will wear you down. Remember, sacrifice is a positive intention only when you see yourself nurturing the growth of others and your own future. And if you understand this, you will feel much lighter. You will stop demanding, you will stop resenting, and you will begin to live with a deep acceptance that I do this not because anyone forced me, but because I chose, and I chose because I believe in the growth of something better. You don't need to do more. You only need to understand more. Because when you understand correctly, you automatically live correctly. And the word sacrifice, if understood correctly, will no longer be a dark word, but will return to its original light. After moving through the concept of sacrifice and understanding that only when it arises from a positive intention can a person truly feel at ease, it is time to reach a deeper, more sustainable level. That level is balanced in the inner mind. If sacrifice is a beautiful act when rooted in the right intention, then balance is the foundation needed to sustain any noble action over time. You may do something noble today, but if your inner self is unstable tomorrow, you will be unbalanced and unable to stand firm. You may help someone today, but if inside you there is conflict, that help can create chaos within yourself. That is why I often say, no one stands firmly on trembling feet, and no one lives peacefully if the inner self is always tilted. I like to compare the human mind to the surface of a lake. The flatter and clearer the lake, the sharper the reflection. But if the water is always moving, even the most beautiful light becomes blurry. And life is the same. If our mind is unbalanced, then no matter how good our actions are, it is hard to maintain lasting peace. So what is balance? Balance does not mean never fluctuating. It means that even when you fluctuate, you still return to your center. Balance does not mean always being happy. It means when you are sad, you do not lose control. When you are angry, you do not harm. When you love, you do not become dependent. When you hate, you do not hold on to hatred. Balance does not mean becoming numb. It means feeling emotions, but not letting them carry you too far from your inner anchor. And that is a lifelong practice. Some people ask me, how do I know if I am unbalanced? I answer, when you begin to feel the need to intervene in someone else's transformation, you are off balance. Because a balanced person understands they can only sow the seed, and whether it sprouts depends on that person's karma and inner strength. Therefore, in inner training, I always remind my students of this principle. Rain will always fall, but only trees with roots can absorb it. You may speak, you may inspire, you may give your whole heart, but if the other person is not ready to receive, then everything you do is just passing rain. And do not be upset about that, because the essence of helping is not to change others, but to stand by, observe, and wait for them to awaken themselves. So to do that, you need one thing balanced within yourself. Balance helps you not attach to outcomes. Balance helps you not expect too much. Balance helps your actions arise from compassion, not from obligation or duty. Balance also helps you avoid feeling you must help, you must succeed, or you must change someone else, because you know the only thing you can control is the intention that arises within you. And you know this is the foundation of all sustainable transformation. I have seen many begin with goodwill and enthusiasm to help, only to run out of energy due to lack of balance. They wanted to see change in others immediately. They wanted instant results. And when it didn't happen, they became confused, disappointed, even doubting themselves. All because they had not learned this lesson. Helping is sowing transformation, is the fruit. Between sowing and harvesting, there must be a certain space. And you must stand steady in that space with a balanced inner mind. I repeat this in many episodes at Inner World Podcast because I believe if each person understands this principle, there will be much less unnecessary suffering. And do not think you must be exceptional to be balanced. No, balance is a process. You will fail, you will veer off, you will waver, but if each day you know where you have drifted and consciously return, then you are living with a deeply honorable inner life. I will conclude this sharing with one image. A small boat in the vast sea cannot avoid waves. Yet if it has a strong anchor, it will not drift far. And balancing the inner mind is that anchor. We have just gone through a special chapter where balancing the inner mind is recognized as a strong anchor amid the currents of life. Now that you have that foundation, I invite you to look deeper into the human nature map, the place where all fluctuations begin and also where everything returns. I often say, to live in peace, you must first understand how you fluctuate. You cannot go far without a map. And likewise, you cannot truly be at ease without holding your own map, the map of human nature. This map is drawn by experience. It shows up in the range of internal fluctuations, the streams of emotion, the silent reactions, where you can move from the negative pole to the positive pole within a short time. Let us look at some important coordinates on this map. Center of desire, from negative greed to positive generosity. The nature of anger, from negative rage to positive contentment. Ignorance, from negative confusion to positive clarity. The nature of pride, from negative inferiority to positive self-esteem. The nature of doubt, from negative suspicion to positive trust. The nature of cruelty, from negative cruelty to positive kindness. The nature of bias, from negative stubbornness to positive acceptance. Now pause for a moment and ask, where do I usually fluctuate in these states? Because true inner maturity is not in how much knowledge you have. It is in observing where you are and knowing how to steer toward the positive pole. That is the key point. A person who never gets angry is not noble. A person who knows they are angry and consciously transforms it into contentment is someone who truly knows how to live. A person who never experiences doubt is not strong. A person who knows they are doubting but still chooses to trust the right person at the right time is true resilience. And you know what? All those transformations begin with one thing: understanding desire and imagination. I emphasize this many times in the podcast because desire and imagination are the root, the driving force that makes you fluctuate strongly or remain deeply calm. You desire and imagine wealth, beauty, fame, pleasure, attention, and depending on the direction, states like anger, ignorance, pride, doubt, cruelty bias will shift accordingly. You think you are angry because of someone else. No, you are desire, imagining a delicious meal, but come home to no food, and anger arises. You think you are disappointed because of work. Actually, you desired imagining a specific outcome, And when life does not match that imagination, you feel lost and unbalanced. Therefore, the human nature map not only shows your state, it helps you see the root, how your desire and imagination are operating. Once more, let this stay with you. The diary for yourself or for others is still desire, but the direction determines its nature, negative or positive. So you may ask, how do I guide my nature toward the positive? The answer lies in daily practice. No magical method exists, only a process of honesty and perseverance. You practice identifying emotions daily. You pause before reacting. You ask yourself, who is this intention for? You redirect desire from yourself to others. You accept that you still have negative zones, but you do not judge them. And the miracle is, when you observe long enough, transformation happens naturally. No forcing, no pretending, no strain. Your inner self becomes like a boat, and you begin learning how to steer instead of being swept away by emotion. Imagine this. Every day you step into life with your inner map in hand. Whenever you face a situation, you open the map, see your coordinates, and adjust your direction. That is a proactive person. That is someone living mindfully. And that is what I hope you achieve through each episode of Inner World Podcast. Not just to hear something, but to truly live differently. Lighter, brighter, more intentional. When you hold the map of human nature in your hands, you begin to see this. It is not the external world that exhausts you, but that you do not realize the world is controlling you at the root of your desire and imagination. And this leads us to an important truth, sometimes hard to hear, but necessary to face. The world is exploiting your desire and imagination. Every product you buy, every service you use, is to some degree related to an inner state of lack. Because if you were truly fulfilled, you would distinguish between genuine need and a push from desire and imagination. Let us step back and observe all industries, from fashion, technology, food to education, entertainment, operate on one principle: activate desire and enlarge imagination. You do not need a new pair of shoes, but when you see limited edition, you begin to desire status. You do not need a new phone, but when you see a celebrity using it, you desire appearance or desire wealth. You are not actually hungry, but when you see an image of food, you desire pleasure. And you know this is not wrong. But the point is, if you do not know you are being led, you lose your autonomy. You no longer live from within. You are being driven by the outside world. And this world has become a desire and imagination industry. They do not sell products. They sell expectations, illusions, images of a self that has more, is recognized as more outstanding. When you look back, you may realize you bought things not to use, but to fill emptiness inside you. A person lacking recognition easily buys a course just to have a certificate. A person lacking love is easily drawn to self-gifts with the belief, I deserve to be loved. You do not need to own less. You only need to clearly know why you own. And I want you to ask yourself, how many things you are doing are to satisfy an image? How many things you want are because others also want them? How many things you own you don't really need only because you cannot tolerate feeling lack? Each time you are about to make a decision, stop and ask, is what I'm about to do really necessary or just a push from desire and imagination? If you desire and imagine to create value for others, that is the positive direction. If you desire and imagine only to fill emptiness inside, that is the negative direction. All the difference lies there. And you know the content you are hearing today is itself an important reminder. Why do you need to learn inner work? Why do you need to understand human nature? Because only when you understand how your mind operates will you not be swept away by the games of this world. You will no longer see yourself as a victim of the era. You will become a mindful person. And in that moment, you protect your inner freedom. And this is true not only with finances or the mind. Reflect on applying it in health, relationships, communication, all areas of life. I believe you will have genuinely different experiences. You see, throughout this journey, we have not only explored complex psychological concepts together, but also illuminated the inner map that holds all the directions of your life. We did not talk about how to change the world, but rather how to better understand yourself in each living moment, and from there transform your inner world, the only thing you truly have control over. I believe that when someone understands how they fluctuate, they begin to live more slowly, more deeply, and love more consciously. And if this message resonates with you, I am not asking you to quickly hit like or share out of habit. Instead, take a pause and ask yourself, who truly needs to hear this? If someone comes to mind, that is the person you should share this with. Not to show them you understand, but to offer them a chance to better understand themselves. If you feel that what I have shared adds value to your life journey, consider subscribing to Inner World Podcast, not to follow someone else, but to accompany yourself on your own inner path. And if you truly find this helpful, a timely share could be the extended hand someone lost in confusion needs. Because rain is always falling, but only trees with roots can truly absorb it. Perhaps you are the one to offer the right drop of rain to a tree that is drying out. Thank you for listening and for walking with me until the final moments of today's video. See you in the next one. Wishing you a peaceful evening.